Thank you for tuning in to Hacks and Hobbies with your host, Junaid. We're visited by our amazing guests coming from all walks of life. Want to learn their story, their struggles, and their journey on how they got to where they are today. So stick around. In this episode, we get to speak with ST Rappaport. She's a relationship photographer and loves working with couples. Her job is to take pictures of couples in their best state. She loves seeing powerful chemistry between people. After many photo shoots and seeing how different people experience a relationship, she decided to find out what makes people's relationships extraordinary and have embarked on this journey by hosting a podcast. She also teaches people how to express their emotions, thoughts, and desires. One of her favorite books is Habits of Highly Effective People. I am so excited to speak with this lady who has been so very creative when it comes to photography. We talk about the difference between friends, lovers, and colleagues. We also talk about photos that could be saved, how to find art style, and creating spark in relationships. ST Rappaport, thank you so much for coming on to the episode. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me. I'm so glad to be speaking with you today.
Absolutely. So glad to meet you and excited to learn about your journey. You know, we got to chat in the green room and last week on, what you've been working on and what you're passionate about. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I'm a relationship photographer where I started taking pictures of people, moved on to focusing in photography, specifically in couples and relationships to help them get their ultimate relationship that they want by showing their true emotion, having it hung up in big in their house in a place where they see it often. And then it's like a vision board and you keep on wanting to go back and seeing it. Now, it's all really nice and it's really good. It sets your mind in the right direction, but it doesn't go really deep. So I was looking for other ways to help couples that I work with to actually help them really take their relationship to the next level. And I came across something that's called Creative Journal Expressive Arts, or CJEA for short. I know it's a long name. I didn't make it up, but it's basically what it sounds. It's we use journaling and art with the non-dominant hand to access the right brain, to access the subconscious mind and emotions so you can understand yourself and really overcome challenges and live the best life possible.
Wow, that is really interesting. So using your non-dominant hand, so I would use my left hand and just start drawing anything, or like what does it sound? What does it look like?
So it depends what you want to do. We have specific exercises to help you get very specific and deal in the thing that you want. But anything that you do with your non-dominant hand allows you to get into the part of the brain that you don't use so much. You're creating new neuron connections. You're doing things that you don't usually do. You're getting answers that you don't usually have. So even just scribbling with your non-dominant hand, eating with your non-dominant hand, all that allows you to open up more parts of your brain.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So you're creating more connections and letting your non-dominant hand or non-dominant brain side take more part of your life and open yourself up. All right,
Yeah,
that
exactly.
sounds pretty awesome. All right, so you're taking photography, or you are a photographer, but you call yourself a relationship photographer, so very niche down. Then you're taking photographs of couples. So how did you get into like being in this niche? Like what inspired you to get here?
So I love understanding how people work and how people connect, like what triggers people, why are certain people attracted to different people. I always observed people from when I was little, very little. Like I sometimes wonder what people thought if I looked like I was staring. Like now I make sure not to do that. But when I was little, I don't know. And just like literally, like I would see somebody and I would say, okay, so this person's really shy. This person, I always like would try to like not just label them because I'm not like into labeling, but just try to understand why they're like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the ultimate relationship, the place where you see the most connection is in a marriage, in a committed relationship. So as I was doing the photography and I saw how real that emotion was
Yeah.
and how amazing it was, it just like pulled me more towards that. That I was like, okay, bye everybody. That's it. No, I'm not doing you anymore. I'm doing just couples.
No, that's really powerful because, like you mentioned, being in a committed relationship, you go through so many ups and downs. It's like a roller coaster ride. It's never the same. And then having these pictures with these moments, I think it brings them back. Like, hey, why don't we go back to that?
Yeah, exactly. Right. You get into an argument, something bad happened, you're upset, and it's all valid, it's all going to happen, right? Like you said, it's a roller coaster, a real roller coaster, and you have that picture to remind you where you're headed to, what you really want. Yeah.
Nice, nice. I like it. I like that thought process. Now, one thing that we're lacking, like we don't have any photos. We don't have a whole lot of photos in our house. We have some photos that we, printed and framed, but not as many as we'd like. So, it's a journey. It's a struggle to get to that level. Okay, you need to sit down, figure out which photos we're going to use. We actually hired a photographer for our wedding. This is, over 14 years ago. And they promised that they were going to, print these photos and we're going to get an album. We never got our album because we didn't select those 100 photos they asked for. And then
Yeah.
it almost felt like we got somebody who was not a professional because they were using front facing flash and there's all these black shadows in the back. And I'm like, these photos, I take better photos than this. So that was really interesting. So that probably also, turned us down. So it's really interesting to
Yeah.
like thinking
Like
about
today,
that.
everyone calls himself a photographer. You have a phone, you could take pictures, and that's great. But when you want a photographer, you want someone who knows lighting and who's not going to get shadows on your face.
Yes, and who knows what they're doing, right? Not just using any camera, but that's interesting. And I guess it all comes down to, are you going to cut, how much do you want to pay the photographer, right? So if you cheaped out and I don't think we cheaped out. We paid like $2,500, 14 years ago. And we thought we were getting the best deal, but you know, live and learn.
Yeah,
All right. So,
exactly.
what are some of the things that you do that motivate you on a daily basis? What are your motivations?
So, firstly, a little bit having to do with the pictures. I really like and believe that looking towards the future really helps. It motivates you. It gets you to get your goals done. It gets you to have the right mindset. Because even if now it's hard, even though the world's crazy, even though everything's going on, it's the point isn't right now. The point is where you're headed to and what you want. So that's a
Yeah.
really, really big one.
Yeah.
I have like really concrete goals of this is what I want, this is what I'm doing. I have my vision boards, my
Mhm.
collages that I do, and really trying to live with a positive mindset. I don't like using that so much because it becomes mm, I think it's very overused, it's like a bit
Mhm.
cliche, but because I don't believe in like forgetting about reality. You do have to, and like living, seeing everything's all perfect and life's beautiful. Life is
Yeah.
beautiful. Life's an adventure, at least for me. But
Mhm.
you do have to realize where you are now. You do have to know what the situation is, but there are many ways you could look at it.
Yeah.
Finding a way to look at it that motivates me is the way I do it.
Very cool. I like that. I like that. Looking at the future, what's possible, and not just getting stuck in the past to like, oh, this didn't happen for me. And those are some of the topics we talk about in our unconventional leaders group all the time. It's a Facebook group, and it's really powerful. Like in all of May, we've had daily Zoom calls around this time where there's 8 to 15 people, and they're talking about their emotions, talking about what it what it takes to be a leadership, what's the future look like, you know. So it's been pretty exciting connecting with these folks on a daily basis. So now it fills in like one of my buckets of, you know, staying connected with other leaders and other people that are on the same journey as I am. All right. So I want to get in a little deeper. And so, what did you want to be when you were a child?
So that's a good question because I think I always knew I wanted to be a photographer,
Hmm.
but I never knew, I knew I didn't want to just do like models or product photography. I knew I wanted to do photography and I would have to try to find out how I'm going to do it exactly. And that's literally what I'm doing. Like people that don't know what their life's going, those people that like they're started college and they still don't know what job they're doing. I was like, so not that type. I always
Mm-hmm.
knew what I wanted. I knew I wanted to leave school early, which I did. I left
Mm-hmm.
school at 16 and I went to England to study there 2 years instead.
Nice.
And that I didn't believe would happen. I think that was like the first thing that once that happened, is like, okay, so now anything else could happen. And yeah, and I wanted to, and yeah, I got that. I started doing photography. I did it while I was there. I rented at a studio from like when I was really young, doing
Mm-hmm.
pictures for people. And slowly through my journey, it became to where it is today. And it's not over yet. So
That's
we'll see where
awesome.
it takes me.
That's really cool. Like, so how did you like? I always like to ask that question because it opens up a doorway to a conversation of, you know, what inspired you to be a photographer. You know, what was it about photography that pulled you even more into it?
So photography is a real art. And I think it could be used and abused, and it could be with shadows and not beautiful, and it could you could take something almost ugly and from a different perspective use different lighting, change the shutter speed. You could do anything and you completely change a picture and you
Yeah.
make it beautiful. I also really like the concept of capturing the emotions. That really spoke to
Mm.
me. Like when you see a kid with like that huge smile, just like it makes you want to smile also, you
Yeah.
know? So between those two, uh, that's why I loved. I always took pictures, and as I got better at it, I was like, okay, this is awesome.
This is what I'm doing. Nice. All right. Next up, I want to talk a little bit about a hobby that you didn't get a chance to get into. Now, I know photography is a hobby for a lot of people, but it then becomes a profession. Was there a hobby for you that you didn't think was good, you know, that you didn't get a chance to get into? Like for myself, I always wished I could play the guitar or play some kind of music. I mean, I sang, but I wish I could play the piano or, you know, guitar. But well, how about yourself?
Yeah, so it's funny that guitar. I did that like for a bit, but it takes so much patience. And
Mhm.
guitar is meant to be the easiest instrument to learn. So I was like,
Mhm.
okay, that's not for me. But I think similar to that, what I really always wanted to learn much more, the hobby that I love to dance, just like freestyle.
Mm.
Um, still find that doing that like places, parties and stuff where I could dance, like I'll be there with my full energy,
Yeah.
but to really develop it more, I think is something that hasn't happened yet. It might still happen. You know, I'm not
Hmm.
going to be the professional dancer because
Yeah.
it's not what I want to, but just to let out energy and have fun.
Yeah. You know, TikTok has had been one of those apps that's inspired a lot of people to do even more dancing because they're like teaching you moves. I'm like, whoa, that's a pretty cool move. And there's people that have been just dancing and they go super fast as if they're robots, right? With those perfect executions. So I think that's been pretty exciting to watch and grow over the past few years.
Yeah, it's funny because like on TikTok, I don't post any dances. It's like interviews that I do, it's advice I think, but I don't do dances, but maybe I really should. Like, I love watching them. Just gives off really good vibes, like
Yeah.
when they, um, so that's good. But that would be interesting. Maybe I should do
That would
that.
be maybe because one I saw the video the other day, and they're showing about dancing, and she's like, you know how people are able to execute such clean moves is because you can record in slow motion. I'm like, what? Because that's one of the reasons I didn't post any dance videos, because like I am not a good dancer at all. So
Right? The social media illusion of what really is, like Instagram is the picture perfect. So, yeah,
so that was my son. He wanted some cookies,
I like that.
Oreos.
At home with
Bring me some
everyone. And
Oreos. Yeah.
sometimes I'm interviewing for my podcast and I have like a kid come on, like literally they'll come to their mother and I'll be like, okay, hi, you could join the
Hi.
podcast now.
Yeah, exactly. Like come be in my podcast. Like I'm on a Zoom call, and then around like 5 o'clock, 5:30, my daughter will show up or my son will show up, and then everybody's like, "Oh, it's about that time."
Yep.
So awesome. It's really cool. Like, my middle son, he's very adamant on what he wants. He's 5 years old, and then my older is 10, and he's in his class right now, and the youngest one is 2 years old. So we keep pretty busy.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, it's never a dull moment. All right. So now I'm gonna let's see what we're talking about. So we talked about how you got into photography, what inspired you, what keeps you motivated, and then how you niche down into very specific relationship photography, which is, I think, it's a really awesome concept, and I think you're doing some really awesome work with the photos that you're taking, and then what it's doing for the people that are then consuming this content and living a positive, not just a positive, right? It's almost like you mentioned, it's almost like a vision board that they want to continue to be in love, continue to be in that state of mind which brought them together in the first place. So it's really awesome. I mean, I really like that. I'm going to ask some questions that talk about the personality that you bring, and who ST Rappaport is as a person. What are some things that make you the unique person that you are? So, what is your favorite movie or TV show?
So, really, I know this sounds shocking, but I hate watching. I like almost never watch because
Mhm.
my eyes burn and it's just like takes too much concentration.
Mhm.
And most people say like it lets their mind run and they don't have to think, but for me it's not
Mm.
something so like something I don't do I rarely do. I only watch like if there's something really that I could learn from that, but not just like educational, something that like gets me in a really
Mhm.
like a very deep way. Like there was one TV series.
And if you can't think of a TV
Forgot
series or a
the name.
movie, you can also talk about a book that you love.
I forgot what it was called. The one about like understanding how people. Oh, don't lie to me. Something like that.
Don't lie to me.
Yeah, it's like an old
Okay.
one, like from quite a long time
Mhm.
ago. Of like just like understanding how people work. Like I really like that. Like seeing people's body language.
Yeah,
See,
react to each
yeah, like
other.
that sort of thing. So if it's something like that, then maybe I'll like force myself to sit down
Sure.
to do that.
Because
Um,
because as a creator, you just want to create, right? You want to.
literally, like I prefer to go out and like speak to people.
Mhm.
Speak to you. I get to learn so much more things than just like sitting in front of a computer screen, you
No, I
know?
totally get what you mean. I totally get what you mean. What's funny is that I grew up not watching a lot of TV, so now I've kind of have a addiction, but it's calmed down a lot more because I have 3 little kids to take care of. So it's like there's no time to watch TV.
Parents force you to become responsible. Once you have kids, that's it.
Yeah, it's kind of true. And then when my kids come to me and be like, "Hey, Dad, can we go watch some TV?" Like, and we keep telling them no, go outside and play. And I guess that's how my parents were. And like, no, you're not watching TV, go outside and play. So now I have this habit of, okay, now I got to watch something.
Yeah, that's have to have like the balance between like not no TV at all, but not overdose. So you're doing
Yeah,
all day.
exactly. So here's a question that's also, back into the movie world. And it's a little different because let's say you were to play a character in a movie, you get to embody them. What would you choose if you had that opportunity?
I think I would say I can't imagine it because like I so don't act, like for me it's like I'm just who I am and I just do when I have really like very big facial expressions. Everyone always tells me like you'd be a really good actor, but try as I might, if you give me lines to say, I can't go and say that and just like speak real.
Hmm.
But I would probably go back together with Lie to Me and the main character that's played out there, Simon Baker, and that concept of trying to understand people because
Hmm.
that is really me. Like literally, that is what I do. Just want to figure out how people work.
No, that's really awesome because, one person who didn't want to do lines was Kevin Hart. So Kevin Hart, as an actor, he started out his journey as, somebody who was in school all the time. His mom, he was a younger brother. He was younger of the 2 siblings. The older sibling got in trouble, so his mom wanted to protect him. So she kept him in school till she was able to pick him up. They would take the bus to go to school. He would go to school. He would do all the extracurricular activities. He was in swimming team, and then his mom, once she's done from work, she would go pick him up. So he was in front of her eyes all the time. So when he escaped, when he was done with high school, he went and started working at this Foot Locker store, or some shoe store. Anyways, somebody told him that he should become a comedian, stand-up comedian. So anyways, long story short, he became so popular that movie studios go out to him and tell him, "Hey, we want you to be in our movie, but you get to do your own dialogue." Right? So if you had that opportunity, then you'd be like, "Okay, I have complete control over what I am going to say. I'm going to act out who I am in this movie." So I think that could fit into something that you.
Yeah, that would be really cool.
Yeah,
But that really doesn't happen usually. It's like
of course
completely.
it does. You just got to put the right cards in place. One thing that we talk about is that once you put something out there in the world, like just to put that word out, the universe is listening, and somehow it'll come back around like, "Oh wow, I'm in a movie, or I'm in a TV show." Like I got to be, beat up on a TV on a movie in a movie where I'm like chained up to this thing, and these guys are like beating me up and telling me, asking me what I know, and I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So it was pretty exciting experience.
That is
Uh,
cool.
so yeah, that was fun. All right, so the next one is, what would be your superhero power if you had one?
If I had one, I think I do have one. My superhero power, I think, is to be able to understand people
Mhm.
in a way that many times they don't even understand themselves. I'm saying this with caution because, like I said before, I don't like labeling people.
Of
I'm a
course.
very, very big believer. Like I said before, if I see I see a shy person, I'm not going to label them shy. Obviously, after some time and whatever, it
Yeah.
might eventually like, okay, so she's shy. But
Mhm.
seriously, I would see someone and I would say, okay, this person went through trauma. This person, like on many, many ways, like all my friends, like my really good friends, they're people that I've seen from far. Like, okay, I
Yeah.
like that person. I'm going to become friends with them. Not like
Mhm.
it happened over time. None of them was like mistakes. or like my mom has a preschool.
Yeah.
And she had to like match up the teachers every year, like who works together, who has strong like talent, like work together so that way they would be a team and they would work well
Yeah.
in the classrooms. And she always used to ask me for advice. And if she won't listen to me, I would warn her, I'm going to tell you later on in the year that you didn't listen to me. And that's what would happen many, many times. If she won't listen to me later on, it's going to be like, okay, I told you so. Or things she was like, hey, I'm not sure if that will work. I'm like, yeah, that will work. And she would be like really happy afterwards. I'm like, you see, you should listen to me more.
Nice. So you have that superpower of figuring out who the people, like what their behaviors. So you can basically sense them before they even like speak their own, probably from their body language and whatnot.
Yeah, for sure. Starts with their body language, and then like as I talk to them, even more. So
You're almost like Sherlock Holmes.
I wish, but not quite.
I mean, he's more attuned to it, and then I like I like the two different Sherlock Holmeses. One was Benedict Cumberbatch, and then Robert Downey Jr. played. So both versions of I think they were pretty cool to
Yeah.
experience. All right, next question. So I've had to modify some questions because of how I see. If I didn't ask this question, I wouldn't know anything about you, about television and watching movies, right? So now I know about you that you don't really watch stuff. So this next question is a very, very, I think it was a special one because a friend of mine told me to ask this question to my guests. If
I'm
you were a
excited.
board game, what would it be?
That's a tough one.
And that's why
Okay.
I don't include this question in the interview.
Well, we're going to find an answer. What's a board
Mhm.
game that helps you? I'm going to continue going with that train
Yeah,
of
go
thought
for it.
that helps you understand other people. I really like all board games that think. So anything
Hmm.
that like is very gets you thinking and creating new neuron connections about a board game. I would like I don't think it's a perfect one, but I think for
No.
right now, till I think of one, I would say something like the game of Clue, where you have to try to
Oh.
figure out the other people. So it's not really about a person, but you're
Hmm.
figuring out the situation based
Yeah.
on
I
other
was thinking about that game too. I was like, she's thinking about Clue because that's you're trying to figure out what happened. You're trying to look for all those clues. And yeah, that's I think that will fit who ST Rappaport is.
Clue, you see.
Awesome. Well, this was a lot of fun talking with you, ST Rappaport. Thank you so much for sharing, your motivations, your journey, and how you became a lifestyle photographer. Where can my audience find you?
So on social media, they could go TikTok, like we said before, Life Picks
Mhm.
Relationships. Place you'll get best stuff. And if
Nice.
you want a free mini session of how you could take this further in your life, really just literally, I'm a very big believer once you have the tools, you could start going and do it. Just to sit down, few minutes, get tools and start doing it. You can go to lifepicksrelationships.as.me
Okay.
and I'll be glad to speak to you.
Fantastic. Well, ST, this was a ton of fun talking with you. One thing I didn't ask you or try to guess is where are you from?
Where do you think I'm from?
Well, looks there's a little bit of Australian in there. There's a little bit of South in there, but I can't pinpoint.
Yeah, so I'm from New Jersey,
Okay.
but because I studied in England for 2 years and I still speak to a lot of friends from England,
Mm.
I, even though it's been quite a few years, I haven't lost some of like the way I speak in a tone. Like they'll say, "Nah, you speak really American," but to Americans and to other people, it's like, okay, it's not from New Jersey,
Yeah,
so it's like a mix. I like to call it my own unique dialect.
that's right. It's your unique style of speaking. And I think we all develop that over time, and which is really cool because every one of us brings a unique personality to the stage, to this world. And I think that's what makes what connects us on a deeper level. I think I like that. I love it. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. It's been great speaking to you.
Absolutely. Take care. Congratulations, you made it to the end of the episode. Thanks so much for listening to our guest on this episode. Please send me an email at junaid@hacksandhobbies.com to tell me what you loved about our guest today. You could find links mentioned in this episode on the hacksandhobbies.com website.